We're in the middle of the polar vortex here in Chicago, and there's no better time to age a guitar than when you get wild swings in humidity and in temperature. I've got this American Standard Telecaster 2015. It's a poly finish, won't age like nitro, but I can get it pretty close and get that nice vintage worn Relic look. Normally I don't show some of the relicing that I do on this channel. It's sort of controversial. But I've been doing a couple more relics here and there and wanted to show you what I've done doing some relics on some poly. I did a Blackie Strat many years ago, and this looks terrible, but I wanted to play around with this and just see what it looked like. I ended up burning off a lot of the finish, and if you see me on that Paul Reed Smith restore I'm doing, it takes forever to do this. So instead of actually burning off and sanding back as much as I did in this one, I'm going to do a little bit on the telly, bring in some shoe polish, and get this to that nice vintage look. Won't be as perfect and as beautiful as nitro, but we can get it close. And what we'll do is we'll use some sandpaper and lighten up, dull this up a little bit. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this apart, bring it inside and outside over a couple hours. What we'll do is heat up the finish, take it back outside, heat it up again, take it back outside. We'll probably do that through 3 or 4 cycles, try and get the finish and wood to expand and contract. I won't do that with the neck, but I'll definitely do that with the body. So first things first here, we got to take off all the hardware, take off the neck, and get this prepped to go outside here. All right, we'll take off the strings here. We'll save them for use later. We'll pull off that neck. We'll just essentially unscrew everything here, pull that bridge off, save the strings. I'll cut the wires for the control cavity on one of the yellows. There's 2 yellows. I'll put a piece of blue tape on it to mark it for later. And then I've got sort of a ping hammer that I'm just going to start whacking the body with. Age it a little bit on the back and the front side here. I sprayed it with water just to see what it looks like. And then I'll take that same tool from before and begin to drag it on the outside edge of the body. We'll just do this slowly. And what we're doing here is compressing the wood. Doing that, we'll chip the paint over time here. So I'll play around, push this down a couple of times, putting pretty decent amount of pressure on it. And as I'm doing this, as I watch the video through and I'm editing it later, probably shouldn't have gone all that high towards the upper horn. Little unnatural wearing to some degree. Should have just sort of focused on that lower horn here to the base of the body. But lessons learned. We'll fast forward and you can see as I push down, I get the chipping on the paint. Nitro would crack kind of immediately here. I've got to go back and forth with a decent amount of pressure on this poly body. So we'll do this on the back and the front of that corner. That's where you get a lot of natural wear. And through this process, you want to do things staged differently. You don't want to try all one thing at one time and then move on to another piece. You want to do this over time, do different sort of aging techniques, dings. And then we'll move this to the outside. So it's -20. What I was doing is I turned on the fire. I put it next to the fire, out in the snow, next to the fire, out in the snow. I did this for about 8 times. And then I brought this into the basement and I take my heat gun and begin to heat this up one more time. It's not going to crack the same way nitro is. So nitro, you get those sort of fine lines across the whole body. But what I wanted to do was try and get some sort of cracking, and I get a little bit of that. So I'll take that ping hammer and rub it back and forth. And once I heated up the finish here, I took that screwdriver and I dented the back of the body a little bit. And you can see that here, as I slow this down, as I turn it, you can see that aging cracks from pushing down on the heated up finish. I thought that was probably one of the better ways of doing this. Didn't heat this up on the front, and I probably should have. I really like the way this looked in the back. You get that indent with the heated up poly. I think that was probably the most effective way of getting some lines into it. One of the keys I want to show you guys is as you're doing this, you're taking those lines as the wear of the guitar from playing it. You don't want to go back and forth the way you wouldn't be playing it. So again, we're just taking the screwdriver and pinging the body off here and there. And this is where some of the fun starts. I've got 2 wire brushes, and I'm just going to start rubbing off that poly finish with the wire brush. So this is an old, rusty, aggressive brush. And we're just pushing this back and forth against the body. And then right next to it is more of a fine wire brush from Home Depot. And this is getting that same wear pattern as you would play back and forth. And it'll begin to just brush off that finish. What I really want to do is dull out that finish. That yellow is just too bright. It's never going to age. So by using the wire brush, I'm getting those sort of fine line scuffs that you wouldn't get if you just went with sandpaper. So we'll rub a little bit of water on here, and now I've got Open Grit 600. And we're going to turn this on, and we're just going to rub this back and forth across the top and the back. This is pulling off some of those scratches slightly. And like I was saying before, you want to use a couple different sort of processes to age this at different times. If you do one thing consistently, it's not going to look natural. So we'll go back and forth with the sandpaper on the front and the back, and this is pulling off some of that sheen, that bright sheen from the poly. We're going to test a little bit of the shoe polish now and just see what it looks like, see where the color's sitting in, what grooves it's filling in. So trying the brown. The brown didn't work as well as the black. You'll see that coming up later on. But it definitely does darken up the finish. It dulls it up a little bit more as well. So you can see already I've got that sort of sheen gone. And if you rub it then with the wire brush, you can sort of begin to pull it off, which is exactly what I want to do as I'm playing around with this. So that was just a little test section. And we'll speed this up again and start using the different brushes to try and wear it out in a couple of spots that you would get from either an arm or a belt buckle. I then bring a 40-pound weight over, and I sort of rub that off the top and on the back here. What that does, it gives me sort of a larger flat spot and a little bit different grooving. So I'll rub that on the top, move it on the back. It just helps sort of scuff it up a little bit more and get you sort of a different wear pattern. The key is to get multiple wear patterns from different tools so it looks, over time, it looks more naturally aged. So then come back, scrape off some more paint. We'll then apply a little bit of black shoe polish, see what that looks like. And the black definitely dirties it up a lot more than the brown. And so the combination of the black, the brown, and the brush really helps sort of push that color out nicely. One common wear pattern then is on the top side where your arm's going to rest. And I've got a Stumac scraper. We're going to just scrape off some more of that paint. Trying to get it to curve in a little bit. Try and pull some of that color out. Again, this is taking off the poly and then a little bit of the paint as well. So then I try and continue to use different types of tools to get that wear pattern to look right. Even pull out a file, get a couple different types of scratches. I really do think the wire brush works the best to pull off that sheen. And so here the file just gets a couple different types of marks into the body. A lot of guys use those felt pads, but I didn't like doing that. In the last guitar I'd aged, I really thought the wire brush was the better way to go. Again, we'll ding up the side with the file. Like I said, different wear patterns at different times, different tools, different tool marks. You can see it's definitely got a little bit lighter of a color. It's pulling off some of that shininess of the new body. Come back with a little bit more brown. And what's nice now is all the different dings. I've got the brown starting to sit in those holes, some of those cracks. And it's got definitely a much more age pattern. We'll come back and forth with the brown and the black in different stages here to get different colors, different wear marks. So I'll rub some of it in, wipe some of it off, scrape some of it off, and get it to sit in different spots. So we'll come back with the hand sander and the open grain sandpaper and just pull more of this out. The sandpaper really helps against the wire brush and the coloring. You don't want too much color in there, but you just want enough. So that's sort of the secret sauce. Also rubbing it here with some steel wool. Again, trying to knock down some of that bright poly. And it pulls off a little bit more color too. So this is sort of a medium Relic body. Heavy, I could have just continued to scrape more off. I didn't think that looked all that natural. And as I was looking at it, I don't think taking that aging off on the top left bout was right. But rubbing in all the different color and the shoe polish kind of helped balance it all out. I think with a poly guitar, you've got a couple of options. You can go really heavy, which I don't think looks right. This is sort of medium heavy. And when you do it light, I'm not sure that looks right either. So I think this was sort of the good in between. You could see that black guitar from earlier, the heavy relicing didn't look right at all. So at least here I've got some more nitro-ish figure. All in, I've probably got 2 hours into this. We'll move to aging the hardware next. So this is muriatic acid. I speeded this video up double time here, but we'll use the wire brush to rub some of the sheen off the hardware. And in another video I did with the Jack Daniels guitar, I let this fumigate and age it, and I did this over a couple hours. With this today, I wanted to relic it faster, so I dipped it in the muriatic acid for only an hour. So we rubbed this with the wire brush, rubbed all the different hardware just to give it a little bit of a scuff, and then we dropped it in the acid and let it sit for an hour. And once that was done, we came back and oiled it up and stopped that aging process. This is the key to getting the hardware to look in line with the body. You don't want an aged body with new hardware that just won't look right. But the scuff marks will help age it up with muriatic acid. And here again, I didn't want to over relic it. That's why I knew if I dipped it for an hour, it would look a little bit better. So we'll scuff up the different parts of the body, leave all the screws intact. I'll just make sure that I've got just enough that it looks right. That control plate is really flimsy. Some of the stuff I bought from China is nicer quality than that one. It's about half the thickness of the stuff from China. I don't understand how on this American Tele that is such sort of low quality. I don't understand that. It's probably my only complaint as I was doing this. So we'll dip in the bridge, we dip in the screw heads so that they look slightly aged, and then we'll come back after an hour and you can see that bridge looks pretty good, just enough. So we'll pop these out and we'll let them dry. Fish this stuff out with the end of a paintbrush. I'm going to take a little bit more acid and rub it on the control plate here. It just didn't age as well as the bridge, even with scraping it. So after about another hour, I came back with my 3-in-1 oil, and we're just going to rub the 3-in-1 oil onto the hardware and clean it up. Get a clean paper towel, make sure all that oil's off of it then, and then this sort of freezes the aging process. You won't get the hardware to age anymore after that. Needed a little bit more muriatic acid on the tops of the pickups, and on that bridge pickup wasn't looking right. And then one of the things I found to age the pick guard was just a little bit of heat. The little bit of heat pulled off a little bit of the shininess, and it gave it more of that sort of older looking top. I didn't want to put the stain on the side. I didn't think that looked right. But a little bit of heat just took off the shininess. You don't want to leave the heat on too long. You'll melt it, obviously, but a little bit of heat just helped slightly. And I've got a screwdriver and the pickup selector switch top, and we light that on fire for a second, and that's it. It gets a little bit crackly and bubbly, but looks pretty good then. So time to assemble this sucker back up. And we're just going to resolder all the wires, reassemble this, and make sure everything's looking good. Like I said earlier, I had about 2 hours in this. It's freezing outside. Perfect to do this over a weekend. Didn't take all that long. The poly finish on these tellies just didn't look all that right. I didn't like it. I think if I had just taken some felt pads and rubbed it off, probably would have been fine. Here I aged it a little bit more with some screwdrivers and heat and cold. I think it gives it a little bit more of a worn-in look. That's obviously the style today. If you guys don't like it, I can't really help you there, but I think the body looks pretty good from where it was. We're going to go ahead and do the neck next. That one, I really don't want to age too much because the poly is so thick. It's not going to look all that well. Took a little bit of flame to the top piece there just to give it a little bit of a darker of a color. Knock the sides a couple here and there and scratch the top. I think the body's looking pretty good from where it was before. Here's the before and after side by side. We'll do the neck next, and it won't be as much aging as on the body. We'll do a little bit lighter, but we want to take that sheen down. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.